Jesus, when he talked about the rich man and Lazarus, he said, you know, obviously the rich man recognized Lazarus, said, hey, bring me a cup of water, would you please? And so we are going to recognize our loved ones. We are going to recognize each other. We're even going to recognize our spouses and get to hang out with them for eternity, which for some people might not seem like heaven, but for others it might. I'm in trouble already. Anyway, while we were gone, the 2 months we were gone, I read a book, Heaven by Randy Alcorn, and it deals with, he goes in, he finds all the scriptures he can. It's very scriptural, it's very good. It's an excellent read. It was, and it answers a lot of these questions. Because, you know, we think about stuff like that. It's just natural, because we're all heading that way, whether we like it or not, right? Okay, verse 28. One of the teachers of religious law was standing there listening to the debate. He realized that Jesus had answered well, so he asked, of all the commandments, which is the most important? Jesus replied, the most important commandment is this. Listen, O Israel, the Lord our God is the one and only Lord, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. The second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than these. The teacher of religious law replied, well said, teacher. You've spoken the truth by saying there is only one God and no other. And I know it's important to love him with all my heart, all my understanding, and all my strength, and to love my neighbor as myself. This is more important than to offer all the burnt offerings and sacrifices required in the law. Realizing how much the man understood, Jesus said to him, you are not far from the kingdom of God. After that, no one dared ask him any more questions. So, at the time of Jesus walked the earth, the Jews had 613 laws on the books that you were supposed to keep. You know, the 10 Commandments is, you know, about the extent of what I can keep track of. 613. Jesus takes all 613 of those and takes them down to 2. And he says, okay, this is what's important. Everything is based on this. Our God is one and only God. Love him with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and all your strength. So how do we do that? How do we love God with our heart? We put him first in everything. And I realize what I'm saying is difficult. I mean, there's only 2 laws, but remembering them is a lot easier than keeping them all the time. That's for darn sure. But, you know, this is the standard that we're trying to shoot for, okay? But if we can keep God in our heart, the things that we love, if we want to be in the Word before anything else, if we want to be in prayer before anything else, if we want to be in fellowship than anything else, we don't say, oh no, I'm going to do this instead of this. That's where we have God first in our hearts. And we got to work at it. It doesn't come natural. We're people, you know, and we have stuff that we accumulate and want to get in the way of God. Okay, our soul, loving God with all our soul. Our soul is our personality. It's who we are. We just saw a movie about Michelangelo, and he, did these incredible sculptures. It took him 6-7 years to do these sculptures, and it was, David and Moses and Jesus. And that was how he showed his love for God, with his personality, with the gifts that God had given him. We have musicians here, we have singers, we have writers, we have people that are carpenters, we have people that work on cars. That's how they worship God, with their gifts. And that's what we have to do. Do it for the Lord. With our mind, Joyce Meyer said the battlefield is the mind, And our thought life has to be thoughts that are pleasing to God. And when thoughts that come that are not pleasing to God, we just don't entertain them. We don't deal with them. And with all our strength, it's our work, what we do all our day. We love God in what we do and how we go about our day, how we work. And our neighbors as ourselves. And that's another hard one. Well, you know, it just boils down to, for me, is when I have to make a decision, I try to decide, okay, is this going to be pleasing to God, and is it going to be pleasing to my neighbor? You know, it's just a real good rule of thumb. I need to keep it simple. If it gets complicated, I get lost. But if I can just say, okay, is this pleasing to God and pleasing to my neighbor, I'm on the right track. I must be doing it right. And just put that out there. Okay, if we look at verse 34, it said, realizing how much the man understood, Jesus said to him, you're not far from the kingdom of God. Being close to the kingdom of God is not close enough. A lot of people have it up here, but they don't have it down here. You can understand it all in your head, but if you haven't gotten on your knees and repented and asked Jesus into your heart, you're not going to make it. You've got to make that step. You've got to take that step. Yes. Being close is not close enough. Okay, moving on. Verse 38. So nobody was going to ask Jesus any questions anymore. So Jesus said, okay, well, let me throw some things out here to think about. Jesus also taught, beware of the teachers of religious law, for they like to parade around in flowing robes and receive respectful greetings as they walk in the marketplace, and how they love the seats of honor in the synagogues and the head tables at banquets. Yet they shamelessly cheat widows out of their property, and they pretend to be pious by making long prayers in public. Because of this, they will be more severely punished. So the priests didn't draw a salary. They were kind of at the mercy of the rich people in Israel at that time. And so they would teach, they would pray, and they would go about their religious duties. And you can kind of understand where somebody would kind of get tempted to, you know, I don't have, all they brought me was an apple today. I wonder if I could do something to get a little bit more money coming in. So they, you know, got the little bit longer things on their sleeves, and oh man, that guy looks holy. We're going to donate to him. And then the other priest goes, wow, he's looking pretty good. I'm going to put one of those boxes right here. They'll really think I'm religious then. And they started seeing that was paying off. Then the guy had to get 2 boxes, one on each, and a bigger box here, and start get the flowing rope. So they're trying to outdo each other. And then they start praying. Oh, would you pray for me? Yes. And they go on for a half hour of prayer, you know, and just keep going and going. And the guy with the money's, oh, this guy must really be religious and spiritual. And, you know, they see that this is really a good way to make money and bring in the income. And Jesus is saying, no, you shouldn't be doing that for show. You shouldn't be acting religious or praying or doing what you're doing for show to make more money or whatever. And, you know, it's human nature a lot of times to outdo one another. You know, that happens. But Jesus is saying, to me, what he's saying is, what you're doing in private, that's how you should be in public. You know, the same way you pray in private, pray in public. And, you know, don't try to impress people, because it's supposed to be praying to God. You're supposed to be talking to God. Okay. He was not just teaching the teachers. I think he was teaching all of us. Okay, we're getting down to the end here. So, Jesus sat down near the collection box in the temple and watched as the crowds dropped in their money. Many rich people put in large amounts. Then a poor widow came and dropped in 2 small coins. Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has given more than all the others who are making contributions. They gave a tiny part of their surplus, but she, as poor as she is, has given everything she had to live on. Going back through this whole chapter, we can see where God looks on our heart. You know, that's the important thing to God, is our heart. Where is our heart? And this poor widow, God saw her heart. He saw that she had nothing else to live on, and she dropped the money in the box. And he was amazed, and he pointed her out to the apostles. And you can imagine the people that are walking in with wheelbarrows full of money and putting it in, and he doesn't even pay attention to them. He's paying attention to this poor little widow. And because They were giving out of their surplus. She was giving out of everything that she had. And when we give to God, God's looking at our heart. God does not care how much money you give. He has no need for it, first of all. He doesn't care how much money you give. He cares what it does in your heart, the gyrations you go through to justify how much you're going to give or not give and things like that. And giving is very, very important, because when you do give to the Lord can give back. If you're holding back from the Lord, it stifles Him being able to bless you in ways. And that's why it's really important to give. But you also want to give from your heart because you love God. And the world, the system that we all grew up under, money pays the bills, puts food on the table, clothing, shelter, everything, money. And that's why, there's financial institutions all over the world, because people look to money as their source of safety, their source of everything is money. But, you see a lot of very, very rich people that are miserable. Even though they have tons and tons of money, they are very miserable, and there's a lot of suicides there. But as Christians, our source of our peace, our source of our provision comes from God. And when we realize that, we can let go of the money a little bit easier. It's easy for me to talk about money up here because I'm not one of the pastors. The pastors don't take any money from the church. I don't take any money from the church, but I know they don't feel comfortable talking about it, so it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, we all deal in money all day long, right? And it goes back to God's heart. God looking at our heart and how we feel towards God in our hearts, What I'm saying is pray, ask God how much He wants you to give, and then decide to give that. And give it with a happy heart, because you realize your real provision is coming from God, not from the Benjamins or whatever they call them nowadays. Anyway, all right. That's the end of chapter 12, Mark. Next week, Mark 13. Don't miss it. It's going to be a good one, because Jesus will be talking about what's going to happen in the future. You do not want to miss that. Okay. All right.
Did you practice?